Well, it looks like Lucid has finally come out with their new vehicle, the Gravity.
Yeah, I've been waiting for this announcement for some time. They said they were going to do it at the LA Auto Show on the 16th today, and I think it's really an impressive car overall. But let's get into it.
Yeah. Of course, we've all been wondering, the stock has been low, and we've been discussing their ability to survive based on the how much they're losing on each car, the cash burn. What do you think is that this SUV is going to do for the company?
Well, if the SUV meets the promises that the company has stated, and honestly, I think that has a chance to, this could be the vehicle that saves Lucid.
Really? Okay. Well, just to go over some of those specs, by the way,
Sure.
it looks like it's a 900-volt architecture. And they also say that the highest performing variant will be range in excess of 440 miles. Not quite pinning down precisely what it is, but that's still, a pretty good number.
Yep.
And a 0 to 60 for an SUV with 3 seats in it of 3.5 seconds.
That's just amazing.
And that is compared to, of course, their Dream Edition, which is rated at 1111 horsepower, 520 miles of range, and a claimed 0 to 60 of 2.5 seconds. Now, what is the cost of the Dream Edition, Air Dream Edition?
The Air Dream Edition is Lucid's high-end car, so that one costs up close to $150,000. Okay. Contrast that with this particular one, the two-motor edition is going to be what they come out with first. They'll probably have a three-motor edition of the Gravity SUV as well, basically a Gravity Dream Edition. We don't know what pricing is on that, but we do know that their pricing is going to start under $80,000, and that's important too because unlike sedans, SUVs have a much higher threshold at which they can get the EV tax credit from the federal government. And at under $80,000, they will be eligible for the $7,500 federal tax credit.
Okay, you guys want me to bring up the Sawyer Merritt stuff? Because I have a full,
if you do,
just a tweet from him that shows kind of the video and all that.
Definitely, please.
He does a good breakdown usually.
There we go. Starting price, $80,000, 440 miles range, 0 to 60 in that 3.5 second. So 350 kilowatt fast charging. That's going to allow the 200 miles plus in 15 minutes. 6,000 pounds of towing capacity.
Is that a lot? I didn't know if that was a lot. It sounds like a lot.
6,000 pounds of towing capacity is more than most compact pickups can do. To give kind of an analogy, for many years, my wife and I owned a GMC Yukon, not an XL edition. It had a 5.7 liter V8 engine in it, and it could tow 7,200 pounds.
Okay.
So this is not very much less than a full-size SUV in terms of towing capacity, and is more than most of the crossover SUV class of for towing capacity, like the Honda CR-Vs or the Toyota RAV4s that are out there.
Yeah, they say that understandably, this vehicle is going to have a taller roofline and a boxier shape, which you would expect from an SUV, and it also weighs more. But they're not giving us any specs, at least in this article, what the weight of the vehicle is yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen any specs on it. I did see one writer, and I've been just thumbing through different articles. One writer who was 6'3" tall said that in spite of the taller size, when the lift gate is lifted up in the back, it's too short for him. So it has a fairly low profile as far as the SUV goes.
We're talking about 22-inch wheels. So that's a little bit bigger than the standard. And Pirelli P0s, it looks like, tires with PZS summer tires.
My understanding is that that's going to be one of their upgraded options. They did not say what the standard option would be, though. Another thing that they mentioned will be an upgraded option, but is going to be out there is the ability for the driver to adjust the air suspension on this. It'll have the automatic air suspension like the Lucid Air has. where it goes down as you're going to highway speeds. It gives it a drag coefficient of a 0.24, which is the best ever for a small crossover SUV. But as a driver, you can also raise it up so that you have almost 8 inches of clearance.
Mm-hmm. Now, you had mentioned, too, something about visibility inside the cabin.
Yeah, one of the pictures that's out there in the press talks about their windshield, and you can see it a little bit on the picture in our background. The windshield starts at your normal windshield spot, and it goes all the way back over your head to the headrest behind you. So it's going to create incredible visibility. It's going to be really something to get used to, I tell you.
Mm-hmm.
We can watch this video if you want, the Sawyer video that he posted.
Let's do it. Great photography here.
Boy, it sure is. There's that view.
Yeah, there we go.
So much, and that's all glass. Those are all windows closed glass through the top, so it's going to be open, airy, light. To me, it would take some getting used to have nothing but glass and a sunshade in the front.
Mm-hmm. You know, what will be interesting, too, is once they release these vehicles to the press and we'll get actual driver feedback, unbiased feedback.
Mm-hmm.
They do talk about the wheel itself has been squared off into a squircle. Now, there's a new word. And but the reason for that is so that the upper rim doesn't block the screen.
Yeah. So far, the overall impressions that I've seen in the press have been incredibly positive. And again, for myself, my opinion is this: if this car does everything that Lucid is saying it's going to do, and frankly, much of the car is built on the same technology as the Lucid Air sedan has been, so I can't see why Lucid would not do what they say they would do. They've had a good track record of that. I think Lucid's got a huge hit on their hands. I'm sure that we're going to see how much of a hit exactly by the reservations.
Yes,
because they're starting to take reservations today for the Lucid Dream Edition or for the Lucid Gravity as well.
Mm-hmm. Looks like a number of interior color options as well, and some are carryovers from the Air sedan, the colors especially, and 2 featured vegetable tanned Napa leather, while the other are non-leather choices. So you get some a variety there as well.
Wow, vegetable tan Napa leather. That's like top of the line stuff too.
Uh-huh.
So Pete, for your take on this for the business side of it, and I guess you too, Mark, what does something look like for this for scale of economies and the mass production of this versus their super high-end luxury car that is much smaller run, like the Sapphire, for example? You think this is going to be? We know they just opened the plant in Saudi Arabia. They're expanding the one here in Casa Grande area. You think this is really what's going to help them? They're going to be able to mass produce this thing and keep their business going?
Well, I think the production capacity is uncharted at this point. I'm not sure what the issues there are. I know that the projections certainly didn't meet the actual numbers that came out. And one can always speculate and say, is that because we've got design problems and they're unresolved? Or is it, production issues with labor issues? I don't think that's ever been revealed. Have you heard anything about that?
I haven't heard anything about that. I've been left with the impression, and this is just me, it's not anything I've heard or read, that these guys might be engineers that are pursuing perfection instead of good enough. Mm-hmm. And one of the downsides, one of the weaknesses of taking that approach is that you almost never achieve perfection, and as a result, you end up not doing. You're always trying, but you're never doing.
And it affects product release and product release numbers. Yeah.
Yeah, it could. Although I tend to be optimistic on Lucid in general anyway, let's not forget, Lucid is opening their second fabrication plant, or scheduled to open it by the end of 2024. So about the time that that the Lucid Gravity comes online for production, their capacity is going to be tripling from its current $30,000 car capacity up to more than 100,000 cars a year capability in Casa Grande. That doesn't count anything that would be over in Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm. And let's not forget, too, that any of these new EV producers, manufacturers, are initially going to struggle with design issues.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like they have a stable design at this point, and if they incorporate a number of those elements in this new vehicle, at least that won't be a barrier.
Yeah, one difference between Lucid and Tesla if you're looking at it from years past, Tesla started out with a sports car and went into the luxury sedan. Lucid went to the luxury sedan immediately. Now the Lucid is going to that SUV style car like Tesla did with the Model Y. Tesla did not, when they went from the Roadster to the Model S, have really any carryover of hardware.
Mm-hmm.
Lucid does. The battery pack, the battery modules are supposed to be the same between the Lucid Air and the Lucid Gravity. The motors are supposed to be the same between the Lucid Air and the Lucid Gravity. So there's a lot of different design in the way that they're put together, but the base components are the same ones. That's going to speak well for the build quality of the Gravity.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I like to do when these releases are made is take a look at some of the comments that come in after the release. And yeah, here's one that I found interesting. He says, so many options other than Tesla now. He says Lucid is looking well positioned as they've drastically cut losses per unit and are introducing economies of scale now. It looks like they'll be profitable in a much shorter time than it took Tesla too. And he says Tesla's only advantage now is the supercharger network. Well, of course, that's going to be solved because we've opened it up and Lucid has adopted the next standard.
Right. If Lucid's on the next standard, the supercharger network is a non-issue. And, you see how excited people are about Rivian today. And it's because Rivian builds cars that people want to buy. Mm-hmm. The SUV segment is a $300 billion a year segment, where the luxury sedan segment is about $15 billion a year. So if Lucid's SUV has that beautiful look that their sedan has in that crossover SUV format, if the price ends up being, in that neighborhood of 80 to 110,000, Lucid's going to poach a lot of the people who are out there right now buying Audis and BMWs and Mercedes SUVs that are electrified, mm-hmm. and they're going to move to Lucid instead.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Now, here's another comment. If Lucid survives to ramp up its production, it will probably sell better than the Air, which is currently being discounted, but will still be low volume at best.
I think it's going to outsell, but I don't think it's going to be low volume. Mm-hmm. It will be interesting. There's real questions now about Lucid selling cars. Mm-hmm. The fact that they had to cut production guidance, and it seems like they're cutting production guidance based on demand and not based on technical capabilities, is a problem. Mm-hmm. If they solve that problem with the Gravity, that'll be the hit that they need, and they'll just take off.
Here's another comment. Lucid did a great job designing this. For an SUV that fights the Tesla Model X with a lot in common, the Gravity is significantly more stunning.
I would agree with that. I'm wondering whether or not the Gravity ends up winning any of the car awards like the Lucid Air won, mm-hmm. Because Lucid Air was the Motor Trend Automobile of the Year back mm-hmm. a couple of years ago when it was first introduced.
Pete, I have a funny one here.
Yeah.
Comment on Sorry Merritt's video. It says, I'm thinking start of production late 2024 is as likely as me growing back a full set of hair. This is a bald gentleman on Twitter.
Well, it's an optimistic projection. Let's put it that way.
The one thing about that, and Sawyer may have a point there, at the same time, Lucid is the one company of all of the EV startup companies that has come out, with the exception of their recent guidance, and has met their dates.
Mm-hmm.
Even Rivian had some delays in the initial rollout of the R1T truck. Lucid said, we're going to produce this Lucid Air sedan. We're going to get it out by such and such a date, and on such and such a date it came out.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that the motors were the same, because remember, if you guys remember, that's the motor that Sandy Monroe said is the only thing he's seen that's better than Tesla. He really liked the Lucid motors, drivetrain motors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those Lucid drivetrain motors are going to be the same as what goes in the cars. They've talked about the battery configuration will be different in the Gravity than it is in the Lucid Air. Basically, Lucid stacks battery modules in the back of the Lucid Air battery because the back seats have extra room. In the Gravity, they're stacking their extra modules vertically up near the front of the SUV because, being that it is an SUV, they want it to have a higher ride. And so it won't be in the back. That gives them the ability to fold their seats down into the floor, almost minivan style.
Here's an interesting comment regarding the roof glass. They say the entire roof is glass, but they still have a little visor installed. LOL. Okay. This car will be a nightmare to drive during the day. I like panoramic sunroofs, but they need a shade or tint. This one is always open, like it or not. I also do not understand the point of the windshield going all over the driver's head. Like, issues with sunlight aside, how much will it cost to replace the windshield if it chips? Also, won't all this glass give you a serious tan or sunburn in summer?
Well, I love that comment. They make a lot of the same points that I think of.
Mm-hmm.
I drive a car with a sunroof right now, and I'm a tall guy. My head sits only a couple inches from that sunroof. In the summertime, it's hot.
Mm-hmm. You can feel it.
I can absolutely feel it. And we actually put a tint on the already tinted sunroof. We used a special ceramic tint, and that is what made the big difference. Otherwise, the car was noticeably uncomfortable to drive.
Interesting. Yeah.
That's one of my biggest concerns about the Lucid Air. And here in Arizona, our freeways are infamous for rock chips.
Yeah. A lot of construction activity, a lot of trucks dumping stones, and yeah, it'd be interesting to see what that glass portion costs.
Oh man, I thought the Tesla Model S windshield was expensive. Can you imagine how much something like that one's going to cost?
So here's a comment here: elegant, confident, refined, and individual. The form language is cohesive and devoid of surface excitement for its own sake. And it doesn't look like an angry origami robot. See, it's possible to design beautiful cars still. I'm looking at you, BMW, Toyota, and Hyundai.
And he's thinking of the Cybertruck, which is a little angry origami robot.
Oh, that's true, yes. Yeah.
I've got one here for you. Sorry, go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to say the interior dimensions, from what I've heard on the SUV, make it seem a lot larger than it is on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
The SUV stands somewhere between 4.5 and 5 feet tall, is what people are saying. That's noticeably shorter than most crossover SUVs. Yet it's because Lucid is taking advantage of the extra space they have under the car because of a flat battery. And the car itself is, it's almost like a Ford Flex, the old boxy, extra large SUV that didn't look that big from the outside, but felt massive on the inside.
Mm-hmm. Here's one. This looks fantastic and continues to give me high hopes for their Model 3 and Y competitors.
Definitely. And Jesse had something else too.
Yeah, this is from Doji Cat on Twitter. They say, so they're going after the Escalade, G-Wagon, Navigator, and Range Rover market, which is something I've been screaming at Tesla and Elon Musk to do for several years. Looks like a winner if they can manufacture a meaningful quantity. So looks like the Lincoln Navigator and the Range Rover and the Escalade, those are the ones that are in the same price range, I guess.
I think they are, and the point that poster makes that I just can't get enough of or get over, they've got to make the cars.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Something else that was asked was, will it use the Tesla NACS plug? Well, I don't see why not. We're out a year on the release.
Yeah, that's my understanding, is that this one will use the next plug.
Well, we'll talk more about this in the future during our EV podcasts, and it looks like Lucid may have a winner on their hands here.
It sure does. I'm looking forward to getting into more details at our next podcast.
Thanks for joining us.
Take care.